rise from your grave. There's a wall there! And yes, that was a Sega Genesis reference. The unsung hero in a shop is vertical space. So much talk about horizontal space, but the thing that really matters are the walls. Here's a brand new outlet, so it's nice and tight. Brand new plug, so it really stays, but it doesn't take long before they're kind of hanging out like this. The weight of the cord yanks them out. Here's a nice trick to help this out. It's been like this for over a year and it hasn't yanked out. It's just a piece of bike tube, and what you're doing by doing this is changing the way that the weight of the cord pulls on it. Instead of it coming out at an angle, now all of its weight is moving straight down. Like I said, a solid year and it hasn't yanked out. Compasses. I highly recommend having a compass shelf. Open-end wrenches on nails. Only use I've ever found for a pegboard that I liked. Homemade squares that I very rarely use, but nevertheless, it's a nice tool when you get in that situation. Notes to myself that I don't ever read on a roach clip on the end of a piece of wire. All these things and more can be yours when you have available vertical space. And I've just come up with about 12 more feet of it. Why the change? Because I added this metal lathe. The urgency isn't too pressing at the moment because I can still use the drill press, which is sitting on an old water heater. Yeah, water heater is just a big metal drum. It's actually a nice thing to have in the shop, especially because you can thread a pipe into it and have it stick out for future video. But at the moment, I'm in disarray again. But I'm trying to get organized, and part of doing that is I'm going to add another T-leg bench here. First, take a look at this. It's freshly painted. Its dimensions are 8 feet long by 2 feet wide, and it's 2 pieces of 1/2-inch plywood sandwiched together, clamped and glued, and that's a pain to do, I'll tell you. But I managed to do it, so I have a solid 1-inch top surface for my new T-leg bench, which will mimic my shop tables and my lathe table, and it will be installed there. 2 feet out from the wall, 8 feet long. So it will end right about where that bench grinder stand is. But I'm going to move the bench grinder over there and probably the bandsaw here. The drill press, this is all tentative. It will probably be right here on the new workbench, and then the machinist lathe will be right there beside it. So yeah, ironically, as soon as I get some fresh vertical space, what do? I replace it with some horizontal space. But hey, it's great for clutter, isn't it? T-leg design, just like my workbench, which I'm hoping that you've seen before because I still stand by its design. And the 1-inch top surface here will go down into that notch, dado, rabbit, whatever you call it. In this case, it will be mounted directly to the wall, lagged. If you like it, you got to put a lag in it, in every stud, and there will be, front support legs on this side. I've expressed some controversial opinions about shop design in the past. I've had firm beliefs, and then those beliefs, every time they were firm, they end up later not so firm. One of those beliefs that I've been holding for a long time is that drawers are stupid because they're just places for clutter. But I dare you to have a drill press without some drawers. And so this, even though it's a disaster, it has won me over. So I'm going to have to incorporate some drawers for the drill press on this table. Further, I know that there's just so many things that come with just peripherals and gizmos and tallywhackers that you need for one of these that I'm going to have to incorporate some drawers into this as well. This is all machinist lathe stuff. This is definitely going to need a drawer. But another controversial opinion that I've expressed is that I don't like cabinetry either. I use this for flammables, and I'm trying to keep it over here away from the fireplace. And I do love it. But the only other cabinet here is the one under the lathe, and it just ends up filled with clutter. Again, excuse the mess. This is way more disarray than I'm usually working with in my shop. Pull out things, kind of a fan. French cleat, kind of a fan. Pegboard, not a fan. But notice that there's just a little bit of everything, and that's what I will endorse here. Moderation. Try a little bit of everything in your shop. Have some of everything, not too much of any one thing. If you get this bug and you want to do it best and do it all over, and then you put French cleat all over the walls, eventually you're going to start to hate it after a while. And so, tongue to the soup first before you just chug it. Put your toe in the water. Anyway, I'm at a point in my life and my shop where a little bit of disarray doesn't kill me. It's not stressful anymore. If you've been with me for a while, you'll remember when I first moved here a couple years ago and I was deciding where to put things. And it was genuinely stressful. It was overwhelming. Like the early decisions that you make end up really heavily affecting how your shop's going to turn out. And for the most part, I made some good decisions. It's always a work in progress, you know that. But now the position I'm in, there's not so much at stake, and I can have a little bit of fun with it, take a little bit of risk, and not feel overwhelmed as I add, subtract, and move. Hey Raz! Did you like that video about Raz? I have to throw in these random videos. And then I had a cat craft before that. Some of you probably have caught on by now that my goal is to be all over the place. I'm never going to be quantified or pegged. I refuse to be forced into a genre because I've tried it a few times and then, you end up with expectation. So, I'll mix it up, put one of these vlog style things in, and then maybe a woodworking one. There's a couple unlisted ones I have yet to get the gall to post just because they might incite some controversy. I wish I had more confidence in that respect, but I don't. It's tough sometimes when 24 pedants drop in on you and tell you how many ways you're wrong. It gets tedious. This is just a point of view. These are my opinions on how to design a shop space. And so far, here's my opinion. Shop spaces are among the toughest things to design because you're dealing with these complex interactions between many, many different tools. I mean, look, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of tools, and you go from one to the next. Chances are, if you use a jigsaw, you're going to be using a belt sander or a palm sander soon after. Every time you use a drill press, why does it seem as though it has this conjoined relationship with a bandsaw? I don't know. You'll develop these sort of patterns to your workflow where you're making these step from here to there and your pattern is going to be different from everybody else's. But then, of course, you also have these environmental limitations. So I can only structure this so many different ways based on what I'm trying to do with it. This little hole right here, this is my compressed air, and this is the switch for the compressor. So that's stuck there. I'm not going to move it, and thus certain things have to be fixed around that. Another example is the fireplace that Raz is enjoying right now. Obviously, it's hot, and so it's going to affect things that I don't want to get too hot, that might be sensitive. Also, we need to keep it very far away from spray paints and flammables and stuff like that. Thermal expansion is a real thing, and so your bottles of alcohol will drip when they get hot. Other things might dry out. These are all considerations. Whenever I weld, I'm stuck being close to the power source. Yes, there is an extension cord, but I can only go so far, and all of these things constrain my workflow. It's an old tire. It acts as an air cushion. So when you jump on it, it's soft. Who loves watching me film videos? Raise your hand. There is one teensy element that I have yet to incorporate into this shop that I really would like to put here somewhere. And that's shallow shelving. Something that's, how do you describe it? A shelf that, if I want something back there, it's annoying because I have to go through the 10 things that are in front of it. So shelving that's on a vertical space but compressed real small is super convenient. We aren't doing ourselves any favors by making these stacks of thick horizontal spaces. In use, they're actually quite terrible. And so I'm thinking I would like to incorporate that somehow in here. I don't know how yet. I also would kind of like the same idea applied to a cabinet, like a thin cabinet here somewhere. Because thick cabinets, they just don't work for me. I'd like to hear, make an argument for them. I'll listen sometimes. But for me, I'm not doing 12-inch cabinets in the shop again. Maybe just one or two, but not throughout. Like, that's the trick, I think, is moderation in all things, right? There's only one thing in life that you shouldn't be moderate with, and that's moderation. Okay, I'll see you around. Wish me luck, and come back and see how this turns out when I get it on the wall.
Rise from your grave.